Day one of the NFL draft is in the books for the New York Giants, and we're breaking down what they did, what they didn't do, and what they still need to do. That's coming your way next here on the Locked On Giants podcast.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode of the Locked On Giants podcast is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. Terms and conditions apply. Hello, New York Giant fans, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast family, your team every day. I'm your host, Patricia Traina, credential member of the New York Giants media for Locked On, as well as for New York Giants on SI, which is where you can find all my written work. And as always, welcome on into my Blue Crew community members, my everydayers, my newcomers, and everybody in between. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with us here on the Locked On Giants podcast. All right, folks, we're done with day one of the draft. It's been a long night, and as you could probably tell from my background, I'm recording this from the New York Giants facility. They were kind enough to give me a room to record this podcast for you. Big night for the New York Giants. They got a defensive player, the guy that we all expected, Abdul Carter. They got a quarterback, which we kind of thought would be the case. And they still have some things to do yet with this draft, but we're going to go through the whole 9 yards. We're going to talk about Abdul Carter and what he brings to the table and what that means. We'll talk about the trade up to get Jaxson Dart. And then, of course, we will look ahead to day two, the remaining needs and whatnot for the team. So, again, welcome on in. Let's get into it. All right. Abdul Carter, pick number 3 overall. Folks, it was expected all along. I've been mocking Abdul Carter to the Giants for weeks now. I kind of figured that was going to be the case. Now, it was interesting. The Cleveland Browns actually traded out of the number 2 spot. They swapped spots with Jacksonville, went down to number 5. And, you just knew that regardless of who was going to be in that second spot, they probably were going to go with Travis Hunter, which is, of course, what happened in this scenario. But the Giants, in getting Abdul Carter, they get the best player available on their board. What he brings to the table, he brings position flexibility. He can play on the end. He can play off-ball linebacker. He can drop into coverage. He can blitz. He can play the run. He can stay at home. He can do all kinds of things. So it's another element to that Giants defense that they really haven't had in a while. And, a lot of people are like, well, it's an extra pass rusher. What are they going to do with an extra pass rusher? Is there such a thing as too many pass rushers? Well, no, folks, there isn't. I'm telling you right now, there isn't. So they will find a way to use Abdul Carter with Brian Burns, with Kayvon Thibodeaux. And by the way, Thibodeaux's 5th-year option was picked up. So I know a lot of people ask me about that. What happens if they drafted, Abdul Carter? Would they pick up Kayvon Thibodeaux's 5th-year option? They have picked it up. And look, they may trade Thibodeaux down the line. I don't know. But for the time being, it sounds like they're going to leave it in the hands of Shane Bowen, the defensive coordinator, to figure out a way to get all these guys involved on the field and just how they're going to use them and whatnot. But I want to play a clip for you, actually, from Brian Daboll regarding what he sees in Abdul Carter. So I'm going to play that clip for you right now.
I had a chance to get some breakfast with him when I went down to Penn State to visit my daughter for her parents' weekend that we had lined up. And in the morning, when we were getting ready to leave, I went to a little breakfast spot down there at Penn State that I've been to a few times. And we had a great breakfast, great meeting. He's a great kid, and he's an exceptional player. He's got great quickness, bend. He's hard to block. He played off the ball the year before, and he has some instincts in that area as well. Smart. Just had a really good meeting with him, and then he was up here. Fun guy to evaluate. You look at him from an offensive perspective and things that I think we might have to do if we ever had to play against him, which we have certain guys in our division that are similar to that. But he's coming in. He's going to do everything he can to, to help us out, and he'll start from ground zero with us and Shane and Charlie. But he's got a great personality. He's a lot of fun to be around, and he's a good football player.
All right, Giant fans. So there you have it. What Brian Daboll likes about Abdul Carter, and Carter. The first impression I got on his conference call that he had with the media right after he was picked, a man of very few words, but a guy who's very much looking forward to getting to work, getting to know his teammates. The reaction from the teammates, very positive, as you probably can imagine. The position flexibility, a big, big thing for the Giants. They will find a way to use him. And, again, regarding Thibodeaux, he's going to be here. All right. I did not think they would move him in this draft. I know there had been some whispers that they might move him, but no, they're not going to. Now, some people are probably wondering, well, why didn't they just take a quarterback? If they like the quarterback badly enough, which we'll talk about a little bit more in the next segment, why not just take one at 3? Well, folks, the value was not there. The Giants were not going to reach for a quarterback. And if I need to remind you, last time they reached for a quarterback was in 2019 when they selected Daniel Jones. So the Giants were not going to do that again. They, even though this regime was not part of the Daniel Jones pick, there is a precedent. And there are people who are left over from that era who were in the room with Joe Shane and Brian Daboll and the coaches. And you can't reach for a quarterback. And it's interesting because I believe only 2 quarterbacks went in the first round. And that is Cam Ward, who we expected to go in the first round. And that is Cam Ward, who we expected to go first overall. He went to the Titans. And then there was, the possibility of Jaxson Dart slipping in there someplace. And that, of course, happened, which we'll talk about in the next segment. But getting back to Abdul Carter, the Giants defense, it was pretty good last year for the most part. It just got all that much better. All right. Abdul Carter has a quick get off. He's got some different moves in his pass rushing toolbox. The kid's going to do good things for this team. I'm really optimistic about it. I'm looking forward to seeing how they deploy him and just, what he brings to the table. All right, coming up next, we're going to talk about Jaxson Dart, the potential future quarterback for this New York Giants franchise, so don't go anywhere. Hey, Giants fans. As a small business owner, your work doesn't end when the clock hits 5. Your business is always on your mind, which means when it's time to hire, you need a partner that works just as hard as you do. That's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates all in one place. LinkedIn's new feature can help you write job descriptions and then quickly get your job out in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. And here's a pro tip. Add the hiring hashtag frame to your profile picture to double your reach to qualified candidates. No wonder 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn helps them find high-quality hires. So go on and post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, Giant fans, welcome back to the Locked On Giants podcast. I'm your host, Patricia Traina, and just a heads up, because of the trade the Giants made for Jaxson Dart, who we're going to talk about in this next segment, the Giants gave up their second-round pick and one of their third-round picks. So that means unless something changes, the Giants are only going to have one day to pick. So therefore, what we're going to do is I'm going to come back with another show for you after the draft on Saturday when we have the rest of the picks come in. We'll just run through the draft class. We'll grade them. We'll have some thoughts. I'll see if I can't pull some segments from past shows that I've done with the college hosts. I tried to target the college hosts that I thought might be represented in the Giants draft. So I'll bring all that to you in case you missed it here on the Locked On Giants podcast. All right, let's talk about the new Giants quarterback. The Giants traded with the Houston Texans, and New York sent pick number 34 and pick number 99 and a future third round pick to move up to where the Houston Texans were, and they selected Dart. Now, what's interesting here, the Giants actually had to trade ahead of the Rams, and I believe the Rams traded down after the Giants grabbed Dart because I think the Rams were eyeballing Jaxson Dart. And what was also kind of interesting is I thought the Steelers might grab him because I know the Steelers had interest in him, but they decided to pass on him. The Saints decided to pass on him at number 9. So Jaxson Dart slid down the board. The Giants were able to get him. They had to beat the Rams in order to get Jaxson Dart, who hopefully is their quarterback of the future. Now, what do we like about him? Jaxson Dart has some traits that I think you can say are equal to what Josh Allen has. All right. And we all know the story between, Brian Dable and Josh Allen and the special relationship they have there. So Jaxson Dart has size. He has good mobility. He has an arm. He can chuck the ball down the field. He's aggressive. He's smart. He can throw with anticipation. I mean, everything you could possibly want in a quarterback, he can do. Now, some of the things he has to work on, and he will work on, in the coming year, he has to learn to move off of his first read. Oftentimes with college quarterbacks, they go to their first read and that's kind of it. And that's all they wrote. And when his first read was taken away from him, there was trouble. He didn't know what to do or he would make a mistake or something like that. So that's all going to come in time with reps, in time with practice and film study and all that good stuff. Now, it's interesting because the Giants last year, and I've said this before on the show, the plan last year, had they been able to draft a quarterback, was to let that quarterback sit behind the veterans. They had Daniel Jones on the roster. They had Drew Lock. So they were going to let the kids sit and develop. And of course, they didn't get the quarterback last year. Well, this year, it's the same plan, just different veterans in front of them. It's going to be obviously Russell Wilson, the starter. It's going to be Jameis Winston, the backup. Tommy DeVito, I'm not really sure where he's going to fit into the big picture. I suspect he's not going to fit into the big picture. But Jaxson Dart is going to sit and he's going to develop this year. Is there a scenario where he can maybe get on the field later in the season? Maybe in a mop-up role? Maybe if, God forbid, there's injuries to Russell Wilson and to Jameis Winston. I can see that happening. So I would say overall, we're probably not going to see Jaxson Dart other than maybe in the preseason. You will not see him during the regular season. He's going to develop and just, come next year, then he can challenge Jameis Winston for a starting role because Russell Wilson is only here on the 1-year deal. Now, the good thing about the Giants and what they did here is they got Jaxson Dart on the 5-year plan, as I call it. So by getting him in the bottom of the first round, they now have the option year available to use if they want to, continue to develop him. And it really made sense if you think about it, because the Giants, if they're going to let Jaxson Dart sit for the entire year, which again is the plan, have the extra year. So this way, if things go astray, or if God forbid there's an injury and he has to miss time, you have an extra year to spend and keep him on a rookie deal and continue to evaluate him. So I applaud the move. The Giants, some of the reactions I've gotten after the pick was made was, well, why did they just wait until the second round? Why did they give up the draft capital? And as I've said before, Joe Schoen has done a good enough job to where there really wasn't a glaring hole on this roster where they absolutely needed to address a position where they had to say, okay, we've got to come out of this draft because we don't have a quarterback, or we don't have this, or we don't have that. So he had the flexibility to give up some of those draft capital. And unfortunately, that included a pick for next year. But, it was interesting. Coming in, I had heard that they might have to give up their second round pick next year in order to move up. And that did not have to happen. It was a third round pick. So the Giants are down one pick next year, but you never know. Maybe there'll be a trade down the line and they'll get some of these picks back. There's not getting any comp picks, that much I can tell you. But they used the assets. They got potentially their quarterback of the future. And here's the other thing, folks. Joe Schoen spoke about at the Combine taking a swing. He hadn't taken a swing at a quarterback. He has finally done it, and we'll see how Jaxson Dart develops. I'm confident, that they made the right decision there. I like Jaxson Dart for this team, and we'll just see how he develops and if he can be the next Eli Manning. Actually, that's kind of an unfair statement. You don't want to say, can he be the next Eli Manning? There's only one Eli Manning, but, a lot of people are going to draw the relation, Ole Miss, he attended the Manning Academy. Eli Manning knew him. Eli Manning thinks highly of him, et cetera, et cetera. So we will see how that all pans out at the end of the day. All right, coming up next, what did the Giants need to accomplish on day 2 and day 3? We'll talk about that right after this. Hey, Giant fans, the NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. From three-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. So don't miss out. Head on over to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. All right, Giant fans, welcome back to Locked On Giants. I'm your host, Patricia Traina, and I apologize, folks. I wanted to play for you a clip from Brian Dable on Jaxson Dart. So let me slip that in there, and then I'll get into day 3 as to what we might look for and expect from the New York Giants on day 2 and day 3 of the draft.
Yeah, I think he's got a lot of qualities you look for in a good quarterback. He's tough, makes good decisions with the football, pushes the ball down the field, has athletic ability, played in a really tough conference, started there at USC as a young guy, but, did a really good job throughout this process of our meetings, board work, workouts, and the tape that we like. So look forward to working with him. I'm glad he's here, and we'll get started as soon as we can.
All right. Now, let's get to what to expect for the rest of the draft. And I apologize, folks. As I'm taping this, it's 1 o'clock in the morning on Friday morning. So anyway, so as I said in the last segment, the Giants set up their draft to where they don't really have any pressing needs. I think what they're going to do is they're going to continue to add depth pieces. And some of the areas where they obviously need to add, I would say safety is a position. I would say offensive line is a must, get an interior offensive lineman in here. I thought defensive line, I thought they might go defensive line, but you know what? After listening and looking at the roster and seeing all the defensive linemen they have, even though this is a deep defensive line class, I just have a gut feeling that maybe the Giants are going to punt on that. They might, if they take a defensive lineman, maybe they'll take it later, or an undrafted free agent, because the class is so deep that they can maybe afford to let it, slide a little bit. But definitely safety is a position they need to add. Inside linebacker, I would consider adding if I were them. Running back, I think that's going to be addressed. I would be shocked if that's not. I could see tight end being addressed. So there's plenty of other positions that, the Giants can use depth. And really, if you think about it, the strategy the Giants are taking, or at least how it's shaping up, they're filling in depth spots. They're getting in young talent that can be developed so that when injuries strike or when guys move on, they have depth to sit in and fill in for these guys as they move on or if there's injuries. And it's really not a bad strategy if you think about it. So, so far, I would say overall, based on what the Giants have done day 1, I would give it an A grade. I know it's, giving a grade to a draft class is premature because let's get them on the field. Let's see what they can do. Let's make sure there's no hiccups along the way. We thought the same thing a few years ago with Kadarius Toney. We all know how that worked out. But overall, I think the Giants with this draft off to a promising start. Still a lot of work to be done. I haven't had a chance to look at who's left on the board, so I apologize. I don't have that information, but I will be writing about it over on New York Giants on SI, and I hope you will check that out when you get done with this podcast. So that being said, Giant fans, that's going to do it for this edition of the Locked On Giants podcast. As always, thank you for tuning in, making us part of your day, and I will see you Saturday. So I will have a show for you on Saturday after the draft wraps up and I get back to my home office. So you don't have to watch all this background that I'm at the Giants. So until then, have a good one, everybody.